Have you ever asked an AI for something, maybe a poem, and gotten back a cheesy greeting card? Or maybe you asked for a business plan and it just gave you a list of cliches. Yeah, if that's you, you are not alone. You know the difference between an amazing AI response and a totally useless one? It almost always comes down to just one skill: mastering the prompt. So in this explainer, we're going to show you how to go beyond those simple questions and start writing expert prompts that really unlock what these powerful tools can do. Right now, using AI can feel kind of like a magic trick, right? Sometimes it's absolutely amazing, and other times it's just a total dud. But what if I told you it's not magic at all? It's really just a method. And I promise, by the end of our time here, you'll know exactly how to use that method to get brilliant results pretty much every single time. So why are those results so hit or miss? What's the secret to getting great stuff from an AI consistently? Well, honestly, it's pretty simple. The quality of what you put in directly determines the quality of what you get out. If you ask vague questions, you're just going to get vague answers. But with the right techniques, you can learn to ask really specific, targeted questions that lead to expert-level results. Okay, let's look at a real-world example here. On the one hand, you could ask an AI to brainstorm ideas for sneakers, and you'll get back some pretty generic names like the Apex or the Velocity. Kind of boring. But what if you ask for concepts and materials for a sneaker line made for cross-training athletes? Suddenly, you get a detailed, actionable outline. See the difference? It's all in the details you provide. Now, to really become a prompt master, it helps to understand a little bit about how an AI thinks. And don't worry, we are not going to get bogged down in a bunch of technical jargon. Just a couple of key concepts will give you a huge advantage when you're writing your prompts. So at the heart of all these tools is something called a large language model, or LLM for short. Just think of it like an incredibly powerful prediction engine. It's been trained on just a massive, massive library of text and data, and its main job is to predict what words are most likely to come next after whatever you give it. You see, the AI doesn't see words and sentences exactly like we do. It breaks everything down into something called tokens. A really good analogy is to think of tokens like Lego blocks. They can be whole words, or maybe just parts of words, or even just a piece of punctuation. The AI uses these little blocks to understand what you're asking, and then to build its response back to you. And this brings us to one of the most important ideas to get: the context window. Just think of this as the AI's short-term memory. If you give it way too much information all at once, or the conversation goes on for too long, it literally starts to forget what you talked about at the beginning. That's why it is so important to be clear and concise with your prompts. Okay, so how do we take all this knowledge and actually use it to our advantage? Well, it's time to introduce you to a really simple but incredibly powerful framework for crafting the perfect prompts. Let's just call it the PCTF framework. That's PCTF: persona, context, task, and format. Seriously, if you use these 4 elements in your prompts, you'll be giving the AI a crystal clear blueprint of what you want. And that means you are way more likely to get a brilliant response on the very first try. First up, P is for persona. This is where you tell the AI who to be. Should it be a professional speechwriter, a senior software engineer, an expert on 18th century art? When you assign a role like this, you instantly shape the AI's tone, its level of expertise, and the whole style of its response. Next up, C for context. This is the why behind what you're asking for. You need to give it the necessary background information to anchor the AI's response in your specific situation. Are you writing this for a major client, for an internal team meeting, or maybe just a post for social media? The more relevant context you provide, the more tailored and useful that output is going to be. Then we have T for task. This is where you have to be super specific and use clear action verbs. So instead of saying something vague like "help me with marketing," try something like "generate 5 catchy headlines for a blog post about." The more specific you are about the task, the better the result will be. It's that simple. And finally, F for format. How do you actually want the information delivered to you? Do you want a bulleted list, a neat table, a professionally formatted email? When you specify the format, it just makes the AI's response so much more organized and immediately useful. It saves you the time of having to fix it all yourself later. All right, here's a real pro tip. Your first prompt is almost never your last. It's just the beginning. The real magic, the really amazing results, they happen when you start to think of prompting as a conversation, not just a one-off command. It is all about refining and iterating. So let's go back to our sneaker example. We start with a pretty simple, kind of vague task: generate 5 ideas for a new high-performance sneaker line. I mean, it's a decent start, but
It doesn't have any of those PCTF elements we just talked about.
And what's the result? Well, you get a list of generic names with really vague descriptions. It's not terrible, but it's not going to win any awards, that's for sure. Now, this is the point where a lot of people just give up and say AI is dumb, but we're not going to do that.
So we iterate. We go back and we refine our prompt. This time, we add a format, an outline, and some key context that these are for cross-training athletes. See what we're doing? We're having a conversation, we're guiding the AI toward the much better result we actually want.
And bam, look at that. The difference is just staggering. Now we have this beautiful, structured outline with specific, relevant details about materials and features. This right here, this is the power of iteration in action.
So I want you to remember this little mantra, ABI. Always be iterating. Treat every response you get as just a first draft. Look at it, see what's good, see what's missing, and then refine your prompt to get closer and closer to your goal. Okay, wow, we have covered a lot of ground, from how these AIs actually think, to frameworks and the art of iteration. Let's pull it all together into a final toolkit, a quick reference guide you can use every single time you sit down to write a prompt. So let's recap the key takeaways. 1. Be clear and specific. 2. Provide context and, if you can, examples. 3. Assign a persona. 4. Define the format you want. 5. Iterate relentlessly. And number 6, and this one is absolutely crucial, always verify for accuracy. Remember, these AIs can sometimes just make things up, so you are the final judge of what's true and what's not. You see, a great prompt isn't just about getting a better answer. It's about learning how to ask a better question. It's about pushing the boundaries of what's even possible with this technology. Your prompt is just the starting line. The real question is, where will you go next?